Hi there, Aaron Dunn here. In this video, we're going to look at how to create a contribution reserving set of minutes. So you can see here we have our contribution reserving concessional minutes. So we can create this document, whether they are concessional member contributions or whether they are concessional employer contributions. This is a pretty straightforward form in terms of the completion of information. So if we look at, and we'll call it Smith Super Fund, we'll put the address in here. You can see there if we, Melbourne, we will be shortly adding to this what's called an addressified plugin that will enable you to automatically populate that field. If we say here we'll have two individual trustees, so we'll have John Smith and Jane Smith. And then what we're doing in respect to the reserve is we're asking whether we have a rule or a clause subject to the deed. We'll put in that specific rule, need to work out whether it's been made by the employer or the member. So if we say in this instance, we'll say it's a member in this instance, the date in which the contribution is going into the fund, we'll say it's the 9th of June, and we'll say that the contribution is $30,000, which is the maximum for that member, and it's going to be a cash contribution. Now, what we then have here is the ability for you to then look at not only the creation and the payment that went into the reserve, we're then looking for the amount that came back out. So in this regard, we look at adding 25,500 being 85% of that amount. Sorry, the member name I should say here. So the member name here is John Smith. So we're allocating out to John, and 25,500, which is the amount, like I said, being 85% coming back. So we then move on to the next page here, which is effectively going to allow us to review that content and then submit that information. So we can undertake that review. Once we're happy with that information, you then can simply submit that. If you are a member, you will notice there that there's no requirement for payment. If you are either a free member or a bronze member, that process will require you to include credit card information to actually pay for that document. So that's our contribution reserving form. And now what we'll do is we'll take you through and show you what happens with the completed document. So we can see here now we've got a trustee minute, a confirmation of the order, I should say. So that order information that comes through just confirms that that document is currently in process of being created, and we provide you, if for some reason you've logged out, that login, that ability to log back in. But it confirms here that you're going to receive the creation of an allocation to a contribution reserve and then the allocation from documents. We then also include some important information in respect to the implementation of this strategy. So here you can see when we talk about the request to adjust concessional contributions, we need to also complete the form that sits on the ATO site, and we've included that link which outlines the information to allow for the Commissioner to allocate that into the year 2 from year 1 when that payment was actually made. And furthermore, we've got some additional information from the ATO's website around that process, including a link to the tax ruling TD 2013-22. So you'll see when we go back onto the campus membership site that we have a thanks for your completion. We need to then move into the completed orders area, and it will then provide us with information around being able to download that specific document. So it will take a little bit of time. It will email you. You can see here now that we have that emailed order, and what it now provides is the information around the fact that John and Jane Smith, there's been a minute to determine that a $30,000 contribution was made in respect of a member, and that member has provided notification of their intent to claim a tax deduction. We've then formulated under the rule to create a contributions reserve within the fund, but note that we don't need to have in place a reserve management strategy, and then we need to obviously comply with the relevant requirements in the SIS regulations around the allocation. And then we've got our resolutions in respect to the creation of that amount and the fact that the entire amount is included within the assessable income of the fund for the year. We then move down to the allocation rules, and you can then see that that amount comes out as being held in the reserve at 30 June and then allocated to the respective member and included within that contribution cap for the member in the following year, and that the ATO is automatically updating their record accordingly through the lodgement of that request to adjust concessional contributions. So the resolutions occur around those actions that need to happen and then effectively signed by those individuals. So that's our contribution reserving documentation for concessional contributions. If you do have any further questions, you can come back to us at info@thesmsfacademy.com.au, and you can use, like I said, the integrations that we have here to download that documentation, but we also email that to you and leverage some of the abilities if you want to make these available online if you use either Dropbox or Google Drive. So once again, if you've got any questions, come back to us and be more than happy to help. Thank you.